The interview is an essential part of the visa application process. It's where you'll meet with a consular officer to discuss your application and prove that you meet the requirements for the visa you're applying for.
Exactly. There are different types of U.S. visas, such as tourist visas, student visas, and work visas. Each type has its own set of requirements and interview focus. For example, a tourist visa is for individuals visiting the U.S. for leisure, while a student visa is for those coming to study.
Right. The type of visa you're applying for will determine the specific questions you might be asked during the interview. But regardless of the type, the interview process is quite similar.
Preparation is key to a successful visa interview. First and foremost, you should thoroughly research the specific requirements for the visa you're applying for. Each visa type has different documentation and criteria.
Absolutely. Start by gathering and organizing all the required documents. This typically includes your passport, the DS-160 form confirmation, your visa appointment confirmation, and any supporting documents like financial statements, proof of ties to your home country, and details about your travel plans.
As you know, we're based in Canada, right here in North America, and winter is just around the corner. Soon, we'll be covered in a white wonderland of snow, with temperatures dropping and everyone bundling up. But despite the cold, people from all over the world are still eager to visit the United States, whether for business, family, or tourism. However, we're hearing from many visa applicants that the waiting periods for U.S. visa interviews are getting quite long, especially in countries like India and Brazil.
That's right. Some people are waiting months just to get an interview appointment. It's become a big issue due to the post-pandemic demand and staffing shortages at consulates. So, if you're planning a trip to the U.S., it's even more important to start your visa application process early. Today's episode is more relevant than ever. With all the delays happening globally, being well prepared for your interview is key to making sure things go smoothly when your time finally comes.
It's also important to understand the purpose of your trip and be ready to explain it clearly. For example, if you're applying for a student visa, be prepared to discuss your chosen program, the university you'll be attending, and your plans after graduation.
Good point. And don't forget to check the consulate's website for any additional requirements or updates. Sometimes requirements can change, so it's essential to stay informed.
Help you prepare.
Sounds good, Sophia. Let's start with the first category, personal background questions. These questions are meant to give the interviewer an overview of who you are.
Certainly. Here's how you might answer this. Sure. My name is Maria Lopez. I'm 28 years old and work as a marketing manager for XYZ Corporation in Madrid. I graduated with a degree in business administration from the University of Madrid. In my current role, I manage a team of 5 and oversee our company's digital marketing campaigns. I'm also involved in local community volunteer work on the weekends.
Great response, Sophia. It's concise and provides a good overview of your professional and personal background. Question 2. What is your current occupation, and what are your responsibilities?
Here's a sample answer. I'm currently employed as a software developer at Tech Innovations Incorporated. My main responsibilities include designing and developing software applications, troubleshooting technical issues, and collaborating with our team to implement new features. I've been with the company for 3 years, and I'm excited about the opportunity to visit the U.S. for a technology conference.
That's a clear and focused answer, highlighting both your role and enthusiasm for the trip. Question 3. Can you describe your educational background?
Here's how you might respond. I hold a bachelor's degree in environmental science from the University of Sydney. I graduated in 2018 and have since been working as an environmental consultant. My education has provided me with a solid foundation in environmental regulations and sustainable practices, which I use daily in my job.
Excellent. You've effectively linked your educational background to your current profession. Question 4. Tell me about your family.
Here's a sample response. My family consists of my parents and a younger brother. My father is a retired engineer, and my mother is a school teacher. My brother is currently studying engineering at the University of Toronto. We're a close-knit family, and we often spend our weekends together.
Great answer. It gives a personal touch and helps the interviewer understand your family dynamics. Question 5. What are your hobbies or interests?
Here's an example. I enjoy hiking and photography. On weekends, I like to explore local trails and capture nature through my camera lens. I also have a passion for cooking and often experiment with new recipes. These hobbies help me relax and stay creative.
That's a wonderful way to show your interests and personality. Now let's move on to the next category, purpose of travel.
Purpose of travel. What is the purpose of your trip to the United States?
Be prepared to explain why you are traveling and what you plan to do while you're there. For a tourist visa, you might talk about sightseeing or visiting friends and family.
Here's how you could answer. I'm planning to visit the United States for a 2-week vacation. I want to explore New York City and visit some famous landmarks, such as the Statue of Liberty and Central Park. It's been a dream of mine to experience American culture and see the iconic sights firsthand.
A clear and straightforward answer that aligns well with a tourist visa. Question 2. Why did you choose this particular time for your visit?
Here's a sample response. I've chosen to visit in April because the weather will be pleasant and I'll have time off from work. Additionally, there are several cultural festivals happening in the cities I plan to visit, which will enhance my travel experience.
That's a good answer, showing thoughtful planning and alignment with your travel goals. Question 3. What specific places or activities are you planning to do during your stay?
Here's an example. I plan to visit the Smithsonian Museums in Washington, D.C., and take a guided tour of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. I'm also interested in attending a Broadway show in New York and exploring the local cuisine in San Francisco.
Great detail. This answer shows that you have a well-thought-out itinerary. Question 4. How long do you plan to stay in the U.S.?
Here's how to answer. I intend to stay for 3 weeks. My trip will start on June 1st and end on June 21st. I've already booked my flights and accommodations for this period.
A clear and specific answer that shows you've planned your trip thoroughly. Question 5. Who will you be traveling with?
Here's an example response. I'll be traveling with my spouse, John. We've been planning this trip together as a way to celebrate our 10th wedding anniversary. We've both taken time off work and are looking forward to exploring the U.S. together.
That's a great way to show that you have a travel partner and that your trip is well organized. Let's move to our next topic, which is ties to home country.
Ties to home country. What ties do you have to your home country?
The officer wants to ensure you have strong reasons to return to your home country after your trip. Mention your job, family, property, or any other commitments.
Here's a sample response. I have strong ties to my home country. I own a house in Paris and have a stable job as a financial analyst at a reputable firm. My family, including my parents and siblings, live here as well. These ties ensure that I have a reason to return after my trip.
Excellent response, highlighting both personal and professional ties. Question 2. Do you have any dependents or family members who rely on you?
Here's how you might answer. Yes, I have 2 young children who are currently enrolled in school. I am their primary caregiver and manage their daily activities and education. My family and I are very close, and they rely on me for support and care.
That's a solid answer that demonstrates your responsibilities and reasons for returning. Question 3. What is your current employment status?
Here's an example response. I am currently employed full-time as a senior engineer at ABC Technologies. I have been with the company for over 5 years, and I'm responsible for leading several major projects. My job is important to me, and I have a contract that extends beyond my planned trip dates.
Good response. It shows stability in your employment and commitment to your job. Question 4. Do you own any property or assets in your home country?
Here's how to answer. Yes, I own a condominium in Bangkok. It's an important asset, and I have documents to prove ownership. Additionally, I have a few investments and savings that secure my financial stability.
That's a clear answer showing financial stability and commitment to your home country. Question 5. Are you involved in any community or social activities?
Here's a sample response. I am actively involved in local community service. I volunteer at a local animal shelter and participate in neighborhood cleanup events. Being involved in these activities keeps me connected to my community and reinforces my intention to return.
Great answer. It shows your engagement and connection to your local community. Let's move to our next discussion, which is
Financial situation. How will you be financing your trip?
you'll need to demonstrate that you have the financial means to support yourself during your stay in the U.S. This could include showing bank statements, employment letters, or affidavits of support.
Here's a sample response. I will be financing my trip through my personal savings. I have a dedicated travel fund that I've been saving for over a year. I've also included my bank statements as part of my application to demonstrate my financial readiness.
That's a clear explanation showing you have the means to support yourself. Question 2. Can you provide proof of your financial stability?
Here's how to respond. Yes, I've included recent bank statements, my pay stubs, and a letter from my employer confirming my salary and employment status. These documents should provide a comprehensive view of my financial stability.
Excellent. Providing detailed documentation supports your claim of financial stability. Question 3. Do you have any other sources of income?
Here's a sample answer. In addition to my primary job, I have a small rental property that generates additional income. I've included rental income statements in my application to show that I have multiple sources of revenue.
That's a good way to demonstrate additional financial stability. Question 4. What are your monthly expenses?
Here's an example response. My monthly expenses include my mortgage, utilities, groceries, and transportation costs. I've calculated that my expenses amount to approximately $1,800 per month, which is manageable given my current salary. Also, I've ensured that I have enough savings to cover my expenses during my trip, as well as for any unforeseen circumstances.
That's a great answer, showing that you've carefully considered your financial situation. And you've demonstrated that you manage your finances well and are prepared for your trip without financial strain. Question 5. Have you taken any loans to finance this trip?
Here's how to respond. No, I haven't taken any loans to finance this trip. I've been saving for this vacation for the past year, and I have sufficient funds in my account to cover all expenses.
Another question might be, do you have any financial obligations like loans or debts?
Here's how to respond. I have a car loan, but I'm up to date with all payments, and I've made arrangements for automatic payments while I'm traveling. I don't have any other outstanding debts that would prevent me from enjoying my trip.
That's a clear and reassuring answer, showing that your financial situation is under control. Good. It's important to show that you're financially independent for your trip. Now let's move on to
Travel history. Have you traveled to other countries before?
your travel history can indicate how likely you are to return to your home country. Be honest and provide details about your previous trips.
Here's how you might answer. Yes, I've traveled to several countries in Europe, including France, Germany, and Italy. I also visited Canada for a work conference last year. I always return home on time and have a clear travel record.
That's a great way to demonstrate that you have prior travel experience and respect visa conditions. Question 2. Have you ever been to the United States before?
Here's a sample response. No, this will be my first trip to the United States. I've always wanted to visit and experience the culture, and now I finally have the opportunity.
That's a good, simple answer for someone who hasn't visited the U.S. before. Question 3. Have you ever overstayed a visa in any country?
Here's an appropriate response. No, I've never overstayed a visa in any country. I always make sure to comply with the visa regulations and return before the expiration date.
Great. This answer reinforces that you respect visa conditions. Question 4. Do you have any relatives or friends in the United States?
Here's how to answer. Yes, I have a cousin who lives in Chicago. However, my visit is purely for tourism, and I don't plan to stay with them. I've made all of my accommodation arrangements.
That's a clear and transparent answer about having family in the U.S. Question 5. Have you applied for a U.S. visa before?
Here's a sample response. No, this is my first time applying for a U.S. visa. I've made sure to gather all the required documents and information for this process.
Good. A straightforward answer showing it's your first application.
Code and grooming. Dress professionally. Business attire is usually the best choice. Ensure you're well-groomed and presentable.
Punctuality. Arrive on time for your interview. Being late can create a negative impression.
Addressing the interviewer. Address the interviewer politely and respectfully. Use appropriate titles and avoid slang or informal language.
Honesty and clarity. Be honest and clear in your responses. Providing false information or being vague can hurt your chances of getting the visa.
Great points. Remember, the goal is to present yourself as a
expect during the interview. Typically, the interview will be conducted at the U.S. Embassy or consulate. It usually lasts between 5 to 15 minutes.
The interview format is often straightforward. You'll be asked a series of questions based on your application and supporting documents. The consular officer will review your documents and ask for clarification if needed.
If you feel nervous, try to stay calm and composed. Remember, the interviewer is not trying to trick you. They just want to ensure you meet the visa requirements.
If the officer requests additional documentation or follow-up information, make sure to provide it as soon as possible. Sometimes additional processing may be required, but it doesn't necessarily mean
What happens after the interview?
After the interview, you'll receive one of 3 possible outcomes: approval, denial, or further processing.
If your visa is approved, you'll be informed about how and when to collect your passport with the visa stamped. Follow the instructions provided by the consulate.
If your visa is denied, you'll receive a reason for the denial. It's essential to understand why it was denied and address any issues if you decide to reapply. Sometimes, a denial may be due to missing documents or insufficient information.
In some cases, additional processing may be required. This can involve more background checks or document verification. It's important to be patient and
Equally important, common mistakes to avoid during your visa interview. These are the little things that can make a big difference.
knowing these will help you prepare better and ensure you present yourself confidently.
Let's talk about some common mistakes to avoid during the visa interview. Inconsistent information. Providing inconsistent or conflicting information can raise red flags. Ensure all your information is accurate and consistent across documents.
Next mistake to avoid is inadequate preparation. Not preparing adequately can lead to a lack of confidence and poor responses. Make sure you understand the requirements and practice answering common questions.
The last, but certainly not least, mistake to avoid is misunderstanding visa requirements. Failing to understand the specific requirements for your visa category can lead to mistakes. Thoroughly research and understand what's needed for your application.
Avoiding these mistakes can help you present a strong application and
succeed in your visa interview. To make sure you're fully prepared, here are some tips and best practices that can give you an edge during your interview.
First up, practice answering questions. Practice answering common interview questions with a friend or family member. This can help you become more comfortable with the process.
Next, be clear and concise. Provide clear and concise answers. Avoid going off topic or providing unnecessary details.
And finally, utilize resources. There are many resources available online, including forums and official consulate websites. Use these to gather information and prepare effectively.
Great. Remember, the key
that could arise during a U.S. visa interview and how best to handle them. One situation that might catch you off guard is if you don't know the answer to a question. This can happen, and it's important to stay calm. In this case, it's better to be honest. Simply explain that you're unsure, but would be happy to provide additional information later if needed. Avoid guessing or making up answers, as this could lead to confusion or issues down the line.
Another tricky situation could be wondering how to make a good impression during the interview. Remember, first impressions count. Be punctual, dress professionally, and always give honest, clear answers. It's also important to show that you have strong ties to your home country and a valid reason for visiting the U.S. These steps will go a long way in creating a positive impression.
And finally, you might find yourself unsure about how to respond if the officer seems skeptical. In that case, remain calm and respectful. Clarify your points confidently and provide any supporting documents if necessary. It's all about presenting your case clearly and calmly.
If you encounter any others or have more questions, and practice answering common questions. Stay calm and present yourself professionally during the interview.
Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Practice English Fast. We hope you found this information helpful and that it sets you up for success in your U.S. visa interview.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with friends who might find it useful. And as always, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out.
We'll be back next time with more tips and advice to help you on your English learning journey. Until then, take care and good luck with your visa interview.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.